By the time we're done, we may have even more people here. All right. When in doubt, go with your grandkids.
That's true.
Oh, my kids, my grandkids aren't quite there yet. 4.5 doesn't qualify.
I don't know, at the rate they pick up technology these days,
That's
Judge.
true. Well, they spent the night. I left her on her iPad when I came to work this morning.
No,
All right,
not
Mr. and
really.
Mrs. Marchand, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sarah and Tim, just kind of plant yourself. Don't go right in front of an open window. It's hard to see you. Oh, this will be good. Okay, we're going to call the matter of Larry White versus Timothy Marchand and Sarah Marchand. Mr. White is present. Mr. and Mrs. Marchand are present. This is file 221343. Meg, this case has got some wrinkles to it. This is filed as a termination of tenancy matter. Mr. and Mrs. White filed to terminate tenancy. However, you have a lease, which is from August 1st, 2023 to August 1st of 2024. So you're in a lease period. So you filed a termination of tenancy for not paying the rent. When they have a lease, they have a right to pay the rent. So that is an issue, unless you allege some other rationale for terminating the tenancy, which you haven't done. I've handled this apartment a number of times over the years. I'm sort of dumbfounded that Mr. and Mrs. Marchand, you would pay $1,350 a month to rent this apartment.
Right, yeah.
And secondly, how you thought you could afford $1,350 a month. I've handled a number of evictions out of this very place over the years. So let's break this down. Mr. White, you filed this as a termination of tenancy. Why are you terminating their tenancy?
Well, I made the mistake of listening to my heart instead of my head, but they came in saying that they could pay, and they had a caseworker, and then I guess they didn't meet those requirements to get that money or whatever. Mrs. Marchand said she was disabled. I let them in on they've only paid $500 since they've been there. I put $60,000 into the apartment and redid the whole house. I put a lot of time and money. So it's not the same house that you remember.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
It is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so you've been there since August. You've made one payment of $500. But you didn't do this right, Mr. White.
Okay.
If it's a non-payment of rent, you have to say how much the rent is. You filed to terminate their tenancy for not paying the rent. You can't do that when they have a lease. Their lease is in effect from August 1st of 2023 to August 1st of 2024. So they have a lease. The rent is $1,350 per month. Mr. and Mrs. Marchand, how you ever thought you were going to be able to pay $1,350 per month rent?
Because when he rented it to us, he said it was only going to be $1,200, and with mine and Tim's both check, with everything included. Well, then he brought the lease here to the apartment and raised it to $1,350, and then now he gave us papers that we have to go share half of the electric.
Well, all right. Well, so is that why you're just paying no rent at all? You've been there since August?
No, we got in a bind. I've been in the hospital with my back. I'm fixing to go have another back surgery. We got into a bind, and
all right, well,
it wasn't our fault.
Mr. White, how much is the rent behind through October?
minus the 500 they paid, it's $4,900
through
with
October?
deposit.
All right,
Well,
well, the deposit is separate.
what about us cleaning this place?
All right, just a minute. Mr. White, you could use some legal advice.
Sure.
Or you should at least join the St. Joe County Landlord Tenant Association. I'm not sure how they do things in LaGrange County, but you're doing this on your own and you've got 1 foot in one bucket and 1 foot in the other. It's a non-payment of rent case. You didn't file it as a non-payment of rent case. But Mr. and Mrs. Marchand have been there since August. They have paid $500, nothing for September and nothing for October, and probably nothing coming from
Mhm.
November.
And also, he didn't include on my caseworker sending 500 too.
I
Say
never
that
received
again?
I've never received anything from a caseworker.
Well, that ain't what she's saying.
Well, I'd be happy to show proof that a payment was sent.
No,
I did
All
not
right,
receive anything.
so,
And-
Sarah, we're gonna continue this matter.
Your Honor,
Just-
may I?
Yes,
She's moved
Yes.
another family in. She's moved dog in. They've ran their water
We got no
so that
dog.
it causes trouble with the
We
other
don't have
tenants
a
below.
dog. We take care of a dog.
Stop. I'll let you speak when he's done.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Does the lease say no pets? Mr. White?
Yes, but there's an extra fee for a pet, and a pet was never spoken about.
All right.
There's
Now,
another $25 a month for that.
Mr. and Mrs. Marchand, you're a very poor tenant risk. You move somebody else in there allegedly, you got a dog in there, there's water issues, you're not paying the rent, you don't have the ability to pay the rent, and you're complaining about not getting credit for cleaning the apartment.
We got
Have you
another
made any
place
effort?
on the, we got another
Have you
place on
made
the
any
third.
effort? All right, have you made any effort to try to find another place to live?
Yes. But we can't
All right.
move into it until the 3rd.
All right, that might help this. I'm gonna continue this matter to next Friday, 10/27 at 10:40.
Now you ask him if we come up with the rent, that if we could stay.
I do
Yes,
not
and
want.
that's-
I will do what the court says. I do not
all
wish
right, well,
them to
what the
continue
court
as my
says
tenant.
is you have a lease
Yes,
and you allege they're not paying their rent. And they have a right to pay the rent to come into compliance with the lease. If you wish to terminate their tenancy, you have to say a reason why you're terminating their tenancy. You've invested $60,000 in this investment. You might want to invest a couple $100 in having a lawyer help you with this.
Certainly.
You may not wish to have them as a tenant, but they have a lease. So yes, Mr. and Mrs. Marchand, now you claim that DHS paid $7,500. Obviously, if Mr. White had received it, he would have acknowledged it. So,
yes, Your Honor.
but you guys can't afford to live here.
No.
And so maybe it's a much nicer apartment than it ever was. $1,350 is almost at the ceiling of St. Joseph County rents. There's not, I have a house on Thunderbird Drive on the lake that rents for $1,200 a month. So these are very high rents for our area. If you lived in New York City, you could rent a doghouse for $1,350 per month.
I love Judge Middleton, but I don't think he realizes how much the housing market has exploded in the past year. He might need to raise his rent. This is that general area, and I could only find one or two one-bedroom apartments that were under $1,000, and they weren't very nice. You can look it up on Zillow for yourself.
But you can't afford to live there. So if you're planning to move, that'll be great.
Yes,
So
we are.
you will get 10 days from October 27th. So you would have until November 6th to move.
Okay,
Now, if you do move before that, you don't even need to come. When you
Okay.
move, you need to turn in your keys and give your forwarding address in writing within 4 days of your moving.
right.
But you probably won't be out by next Friday. So we'll address this further next Friday morning. Have your grandson help you get logged in again, and we'll address it further. But if they get what they asked for, I'll try to pound a square peg into a round hole and call this a non-payment of rent case. You would have until November 6th, which is 10 days from October 27th to move out. So if you have a new place by the 3rd, maybe the problem will take care of itself. Now, that doesn't include money damages, Mr. White. Once they
Yeah.
move out, you can sue them for money damages, either as part of this case, except I don't think you paid the fee for supplemental damages, or in small claims court.
I was just trying to get it re-rented.
Yeah.
Well, I don't blame you a bit.
Friggin'
If you can get $13.50, I guess more power to you. But as soon as I looked at this, I thought this was a desperation for the Marchands to find a place to live. I don't know how they thought they were gonna be able to pay this much rent. And I don't think DHS would pay this high of a rent, but we'll address it further the next Friday at 10:40 a.m. So I'll see everybody then.
All right,
Do you have any
thank you.
questions, Mr. and Mrs. Marchand?
No,
No, thank you.
All right, I'll see you then.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.